let's take a look at prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells in terms of structure and function. Remember, earlier during the introduction of the chapter, we talked about the cell theory, right? That cell theory says that a cell is the basic unit of life, right? All organisms are made up of cells, and cells come from pre-existing cells. Now, I said also that whether you are a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell, all cells actually have a minimum number of structures they have to have. These structures are the plasma membrane. So all cells have a plasma membrane, whether they are prokaryotic cells or eukaryotic cells, right? They have a plasma membrane. They do have a cytoplasm. What is a cytoplasm? A cytoplasm, it's a semi-fluid substance in the inside of the cell within the walls of the plasma membrane. It holds some genetic information in a form of DNA, also called deoxyribonucleic acid. I want you to remember that. And the ribosomes. Now, let me tell you up front that the ribosomes, the job of the ribosomes is to do protein synthesis. Protein synthesis. I want you to remember that. So regardless of the cell, whether it is a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell, any cell needs ribosomes for protein synthesis. And most enzymes are proteins. So you understand that ribosomes are going to be very important. The genetic information is going to be essential for any cell because that genetic information is what holds what the cell is able to do and what the cell is not able to do, where the cell is able to live and where the cell is not able to live, right? The cytoplasm, it's where all the chemical reactions are going to occur, right? And the plasma membrane obviously sets the limit of the cell. Now, two categories of cells, as I already mentioned earlier: prokaryotic cells that are very simple cells, no nucleus, but they do have a nucleoid. I want you to remember that. How about eukaryotic cells? Eukaryotic cells are complex. They do have a nucleus. In other words, their genetic information is enclosed in an envelope, right, making up the nucleus. And then they have membrane-bound organelles. Organelles being the structures in the cell that have a very specific function and that set that structure apart from another structure of the cell. Okay? Now let's dive a little bit into prokaryotic cells and specifically bacteria. The bacteria are going to have their DNA, right, their chromosome, okay? That chromosome is going to sit in a region that we call the nucleoid. The nucleoid, right? That's the location of the bacterial chromosome. Then, going outward, we're going to have the ribosomes. These are ribosomes, okay? The ribosomes, their job is to synthesize proteins. Then we are going to have the plasma membrane right in here. This is the plasma membrane. And just like we saw earlier, the plasma membrane, it's a phospholipid bilayer with proteins embedded, right? And along with the proteins, we are also going to have some lipids. In this case, in the bacteria, we're not going to have cholesterol because cholesterol is going to be present in animal cells. However, in prokaryotic cells, we're going to have some molecules that we call hopanoids. Okay? This is the equivalent of cholesterol in bacteria, but I'm not going to bug you with that term, hopanoids, but I want you to know it. I want you to hear it, okay? Then going outward, we are going to have the cell wall. The cell wall in bacteria is made up of a very complex molecule that we call the peptidoglycan, okay? Peptidoglycan. And the peptidoglycan is the reason why the bacterial cells have the shape they have, right? Some of them are spherical, others are rod-shaped, others are rod but curved, right? And others are wiggly. They have different shapes based on the cell wall. Then we have the cytoplasm. This is all of this, the cytoplasm. This is the cytoplasm here, the semi-fluid substance, right? This is where most of the chemical reactions in the cell are going to occur, okay? And then you are going to have, going more outside here, we're going to have the capsule. The capsule, it's a gel-like structure that allows the cell to stay moist. But the capsules are also the structures that provides bad advantages to bacteria when it comes to our health, right? The capsules can be virulent factors, meaning that because of the presence of the capsule, some bacteria actually cause us a bunch of issues, causing us to get sick, right? This is, for instance, the case of Streptococcus pneumonia. Streptococcus pneumonia, it's a bacterium that causes pneumonia that can cause you to die. And this Streptococcus pneumonia is actually able to do that because it has a capsule that allows that bacterium to escape our defense system. All right? So these are some of the structures I would like to mention. Oh, maybe before we move forward, let me also mention the flagellum. The flagellum, it's some kind of tail. That structure that is like a tail is actually spinning 360 degrees. As it spins 360 degrees, that causes the bacterium to be propelled, right? So that it can move toward food or fly or get away from danger such as antibiotics, right? They can actually feel that food is over there. They can feel that antibiotics are over there. So we have to get away from this area. And then we have some little hairy structures that you see here. These hairy structures are called pili, right? Pili. So pili. Okay? One pilus, several pili. Okay? The pili are very important to create anchorage point of the cell to surfaces, right? So the bacteria are able to attach to your stomach cells, to your small intestine cells, to your lung cells, because they do have those pili. Okay? So let me close that parenthesis now and let's move on to the eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells, we are going to spend some time on animal cells and plant cells. Here we have the micrograph of an animal cell with a huge nucleus here containing inside, DNA. And we have a particular area here that is dense that we call the nucleolus. The nucleolus, it's a dense area where some activities are happening, including the production of future ribosomes, okay? you have the nuclear envelope, and all the structure here is the nucleus. Okay? Now, DNA in the nucleus is relatively diffuse. That DNA that is diffuse is actually called chromatin. Okay, chromatin is diffuse DNA, right? And that chromatin is nothing but DNA mingled with proteins. Okay, and these proteins are called histones. Okay, I will not bug you with histones. Okay, I will not bug you with the fact that DNA is mingled with proteins. Don't worry about that for the sake of the exam, I mean, but it's good to know for your overall knowledge, right? And then we are going to have the cytoplasm, in which we are going to have all these organelles, this bunch of flattened sacs. This bunch of flattened sacs are the endoplasmic reticulum. I'm sorry, endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so eukaryotic cells, they are going to have a nucleus that contains the genetic information, and the cells are going to be compartmentalized, meaning that they're going to have a bunch of compartments which are membrane-bound organelles, right? This is a membrane-bound organelle, so these are all of them here. You can see how you have flattened sacs all over the cell. And organelles, what do we call organelles? Organelles are the structure in the cell that carry out a specific function that is not replicated by another organelle. Okay? An organelle, it's a structure in the cell that carry out a specific function. All right, so here we have a graphic representation of an animal cell with the nuclear envelope right here, and the whole structure, including the chromatin inside and the nucleolus, all of that, it's the nucleus, right? The nucleus, it's the nuclear envelope, right? You have some pores, or where I didn't mention that. You have some nuclear pores. The nuclear pores allow some material to go in and out of the nucleus. You have the nucleolus, where the production of ribosome starts, right? And you have chromatin. Then we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is going to be all of this, right? All of this here, it's the cytoplasm, a semi-fluid substance, okay? Cytoplasm, right? We have the plasma membrane that sets the limit between the inside and the outside of the cell. So we have the plasma membrane here. Now, going back here close to the nucleus, we're going to have some flattened sacs. These flattened sacs are studded with ribosomes. That's the endoplasmic reticulum. But that endoplasmic reticulum is specifically called rough endoplasmic reticulum. The reason why it is called rough endoplasmic reticulum is because it looks rough. It looks rough because ribosomes are attached to the membrane that makes up the endoplasmic reticulum. Then we are going to have smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum looks smooth because there is no ribosomes attached to them. That's why they look smooth. Now, closely associated with the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, you're going to have this series of sacs here. That's the Golgi apparatus or Golgi body. The Golgi apparatus or Golgi body, right? We are going to address their functions at a later time. Then we have the mitochondria, right? The mitochondria, which are the powerhouse of the cell. So this is the part of the cell that produces the energy that is needed to support cellular work. Then we're going to have some vesicles. Okay, these vesicles are going to carry some material outside of the cell or inside of the cell. Okay, these are transport vesicles. And then we have centrioles. Centrioles are in a region that we call centrosome. Okay, this centrosome, okay, are going to house the centrioles that play a very important role during cell division. Okay, so we have a vesicle that is forming, an endoplasmic vesicle that is forming. Okay, another endoplasmic vesicle. Well, actually, this is exocytosis vesicle that is forming here. Okay, so we have some vesicles that go from the outside to bring, from the inside to bring the material outside. Okay, and from the outside to bring the material inside. In either case, you are going to have the vesicles that are going to form. Then we have structure that we call lysosome. The lysosome, it's a little sac that contains digestive enzymes. These digestive enzymes are responsible for breaking down the viruses that you engulf, the bacteria that you engulf that needs to be destroyed. Okay? And then we do have the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton here, we're going to have the cytoskeletal filaments, including the microfilament and the microtubules and the intermediate filaments, right, that make up the the cytoskeleton. So that was animal cells. How about plant cells? So we have plant cells here. One thing that is characteristic to plant cells is that they do have chloroplast. Okay, they do have chloroplast. So right here, the chloroplast is the organelle that is responsible for harvesting light, converting that light energy into chemical energy, and eventually gathering carbon dioxide and water to form, at the end of the day, sugar at some point, right? So also characteristic to plant cells, we're going to have a cell wall, which is responsible for the shape of plant cells. We have a plasma membrane that is closely attached to the cell wall. The cell wall sits outside, obviously. Okay, so then we're going to have a humongous structure here. That humongous structure is called the central vacuole. Okay, that central vacuole is essential to store water and store many other things and cause the plant cell to take up volume and to be really pushing the membrane against the wall so that the plant can be stiff and upright. Okay, then you have the nucleus of a plant cell right here. Okay, we do have peroxisomes, which are organelles that are also going to play very specific functions in the cell. We have ribosomes, just like in bacteria and animal cells. You also do have ribosomes in plant cells. You have a nucleus with a nucleolus and chromatin, just like in the case of animal cells. You have mitochondria that also play the same role, which is to produce ATP that is responsible for fueling cellular reaction. And then here we have the central vacuole, again, that big part here that plays a very important role in keeping the plant cell healthy. All right, so this is a micrograph of a plant cell. Okay, I did not mention this, but this is the micrograph of an animal cell. Well, maybe I mentioned it, maybe I forgot. All right, so now let's take a look at a graphic representation of a plant cell. So we have again here the cell wall. In yellow here, the plasma membrane, okay? Just so I can walk you through. We have the cell wall, okay? Then the plasma membrane. So if you follow the arrow, you are going to see what I'm talking about, okay? The cell wall right here, and then the plasma membrane here, okay? Now, this structure is very unique of plants. The plasmodesmata. The plasmodesmata is this channel that allows two neighboring plant cells to crosstalk, right? We're going to have the centrosomes, the chloroplast, right, that harvest light energy, convert it into chemical energy for photosynthesis to take place. Now, in addition to chloroplast, the plant cells are going to have mitochondria, which means that just like animal cells, plants also need to produce ATP for cellular work, okay? Then we have the nucleus, okay? The nucleus with the nuclear envelope, nuclear pores, nucleolus, chromatin, all right? And then you're going to have here the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So we have the rough endoplasmic reticulum with ribosomes attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Then we're going to have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and then the Golgi apparatus right here, the Golgi apparatus, some vesicles, transport vesicles. We also do have the cytoskeleton, including microtubules and microfilaments, right? We also have intermediate filaments, even though they are not shown here, okay? Central vacuole, so this,